Okay, so like I was saying, today's class, I'm just going to teach you how to do two things: how to add a search feature to your API and how to paginate your API. Those are the two major things I'm going to teach you. So, yeah, let's get started. Let me share my screen. So about the last class, do you have any questions from what we did so I can quickly tackle it before we move on?
No.
Okay, awesome. Okay, okay. Okay, so first of all, I'd like to ask, do you know what pagination is?
Mm, like putting like pages in your website. So
Let me see
I
if I
don't
can
know
look
if
for an example. I'm coming. Gosh, yeah, I think this guy's page has pagination. Okay, so primarily, when you're talking of paginating, just think of it like you're breaking the amount of data that your API is returning. That your API is returning. Sorry, into smaller bits. So you're breaking the resource into smaller bits. Like this now, on this particular page, there's a certain amount of articles that are being returned, right? And then when you click on page two, it takes you to another page and like that, like that, like that. So instead of returning all the articles at once, you are basically just breaking them down into different aspects. I mean, different pages. And the most obvious reasons for this is optimization, right? So when I'm talking about optimization, I'm talking about, for instance, if your API has like 1,000 resources and you are returning everything at once, it is going to put a lot of load on the server, on the client, and all of that, right? Because it's just too much. It's just too much. So it's best to break it down. Maybe if you want to break it down into bits of 100 or 50, and like that, like that, like that. So let's get started with it. So yeah, and just we have two views now. We have one view to handle the post and the get request, and then we have another view to handle the put request and the delete request. So out of these two views, which of them do you think we're supposed to paginate?
mm, the get
This one over here.
get to both of them.
Eh?
Um yeah, the first one since we're getting everything.
Yeah, primarily. Exactly. Okay, so to do that, we are going to create something called a paginator. And you can decide to write your paginator here, it's up to you, but I always prefer to break these things down into their separate meanings. So I'm going to create a file called paginators.py. Awesome. And inside it, we're going to import something. I'll say from REST framework, import. Okay, so now just a little trick in case you're like lost on what to do next and all of that. You can just click on Control plus space bar. It should give you a number of options, right, that fit the description. So yeah, I'm just going to import page number paginator. So rest, oh sorry, rest framework the pagination. Sorry, yeah, that's it. Yeah, page number pagination. Okay, so what does page number pagination do? Page number pagination is a class basically that handles pagination by the number of pages, just like the name says. So I'm going to create a new class for our paginator. We'll call it task paginator. Remember that the name of our model is task. right? So that's the reason why I'm just referring to the name again. That's what I'm saying task paginator. And it is going to import, and it's going to inherit from what?
Page number pagination.
Yeah, exactly. Page number pagination. Great. So now in this class, we're going to define three fields. So page size, page underscore size. Now, what does page size mean? Page size here basically means how many resources do you want to return per page. So, like the example I showed, do I still have it? Yeah, I still have it. So, like the example I showed, I think this is probably returning like 15 or 20 articles per page, right? So, that's where you determine how many you want to return. If you want to return just one, that's totally fine. Currently, our database has like I think two or three information in it. So let's just return two for now, and then we say page size query parameter. So I'm going to explain what this means. Oh, sorry. I'm going to explain what this means soon, but just let's just keep it here for now. And I'll say page size. Awesome. Then finally, I'll say maximum page size is equals to 100. Okay. So here's what's going on here. This first line of code here, I have I'm basically telling Django that by default, whenever the user calls this specific URL, right, um, return just two resources by default. Now on this second page, I mean on this second line, what I'm saying is that okay, by default you are returning two, but the user can decide that you don't want two. So for instance, in the URL, if I go to URL slash page slash two, by default is two, right? The user can decide that okay, they want to return more than two, they want to return 10 at once. Maybe the front end developer wants to work with 10 at that point in time and does not want stress. So you can decide that okay, I want to return 10. And what is it going to use to return it? This value here. So it's going to be something like page size, then you say equals to then the value that it wants to put, something like this. Well, I'll explain it later. I'll still explain it in details. Then this third line, what he's saying is that although we're allowing the front-end developer or allowing the user to return, I mean to customize how many resources they want to return at once, but they cannot return more than this specific amount. So I can decide to say 50, and at the same time I can decide to leave it as at 100, just like we have here. So it simply means they cannot return more than 100 at once, and if it's whatever number you put here basically would be the maximum they'll be able to return. Now that we've done this, we'll go back into our views, because the view is where we have the business logic and all of that. So we import it to say from paginators, import.
Sorry, the maximum page size is for the resources, yeah?
Yes,
Okay.
I mean, let me I'm coming, let me just finish the import. Okay, so let me just come back to this again. So the maximum page size, by default, I'm saying by default Django should return 2, right?
Yes.
And when I define this over here, I'm simply saying that okay, although you are returning 2 by default, if the user wants to return more than 2, you just pass in this value to the URL, and they specify the value for it, right? And that's
Mm-hmm.
what and the value they specify will be what you're going to return. But on the third line, I'm saying that whether or not they are allowed to specify the resource they want to return. Once it's more than, you cannot return more than 100. So once it's more than 100, it will not return it. It only return a maximum of 100 for them. Do you understand?
Yes.
Okay, cool. So now I'm coming to our views over here, and then I've imported our what's the name? paginator. So in this first view, like you said, that's where we're going to implement our paginator. In this first view, right, which of the methods is supposed to take in the paginator?
The get.
The get. Awesome. Okay, give me a minute. So now, in this place, we're going to define a variable and say paginator. Um, is going to be equal to our task paginator. Okay, so give me a minute. Okay, so now that we've done this, the next thing that we have to do is get the results. Right? What do I mean by the results? The results basically is by default when I do the stats.object.all, I'm returning all the resources in my database. So the results is going to be like the paginated um, the paginated results basically what we have paginated. So I'm just going to say results will be equal to paginator, and it has what's the name? It has a method as well. The method is paginate query set. So as you can see, if you press get, you see many methods: get next link, get page number, blah blah blah. They are a lot, right? So you can go through it to understand how they work. But this is what I want here: paginate query set. And what is it going to paginate? Which query set is it going to paginate?
Tasks.
Tasks, exactly. So that's what we have over here. We're not going to say tasks. And then we're going to take in a parameter known as requests. Awesome. So now when I'm going to serialize, what am I going to serialize? I'm actually going to serialize the tasks.
Um, yes, you still have to serialize.
Mm, okay. In a sense, we'll still be serializing the tasks, but that's how it works. Since we have paginated, right? What we paginated is this task.objects.all. That's what we paginated. And we paginated it to two. So
Mm-hmm.
two objects out of whatever it is that we have here is going to be inside this result, and that is what we want to return. And since that's what we want to return, that is what we have to serialize. Do you understand?
Can you come again?
Okay, cool. Now this tax.object.all, what does it contain? It contains all the objects in our database, right?
Yes.
Okay, good. And then initially, when we are returning everything inside our database at once, we serialized it immediately, right? That's why we have this here, right?
Yeah.
Cool. So now we've gotten all the objects in our database here, and then we want to paginate the objects in our database. So it will be returning it two until everything finishes, right? So that's why we did
Mm-hmm.
this. And what did we pass into it here? We passed in this task.object.all. That's what we passed into it. So in a sense, what this variable is doing over here is just that it's breaking everything inside this into bits. That's two, and all of that until the object in it is exhausted. So since this result is basically, we can still call it our query set, our paginated query set. And what we want to return is a paginated query set to the user, right? We have to serialize the results, because in a sense we're no longer returning everything, we're returning the paginated results. Do you understand?
Yes.
Okay, cool. So now instead of tasks, we'll say results, and the rest will still remain the same. So finally, we cannot return this response again, because how do I explain it. Okay, so we have paginated, right? And it's going to return a response for us. So what the response we want is the paginated response. The response that has been paginated. That's the query set that has been paginated. That is what we want. So we're not just going to say serializer.data. Instead, we'll come here and we'll say return paginator. This paginator is, where is it? This paginator here is the same variable that we have over here. Okay, so don't get it confused. That's a paginator dot get paginated results. Oh, sorry, paginated response rather. And what is the paginated response? We'll just say serializer.data. Okay. So do you understand so far, or should I go again?
So that request in the this thing, that paginate query set, what's it for?
It primarily just takes the method basically just takes in a request by default. So you just pass it in. Do you have another question?
Oh no.
Okay, cool. Just like the way this our task list view method takes in a request, this also takes in a request on its own. So you just pass it in. Okay, so let's see if everything is working. Everything is working in our data, I mean our terminal here. And for some reason Postman is failing me today. So I'm going to use the browser view. Okay, so our URL is slash API slash tasks slash list, right? Oh, I said AIP. Okay, so if you're using a browser, you should get something like this. Now you can see that by default it is returning true. So let's try to understand the response we are getting from this. So it is returning the count. What does the count mean? The count simply means that it simply means the amount of objects that we have in our database. So how many tasks do we have in our database? That's what this count means, right? Then the next simply means is it's a URL. The URL is going to be like the URL to get to the next page. Just like we have in this example, we have page one, right? We have page two, then we have page three. Page three has its own URL as well, right? If I click on it, you see that the URL over here it changes to three. So that is what this next is about. Now this previous is supposed to be a URL as well, but it is returning null, right? Because there is no previous what's the name? There's no previous resource. This is the first page for our resource. Do you understand?
Yes.
Okay, cool. Then the result is basically two out of what we have. So if I click on this, it will return one because we only have three. So now you can see that the next has null because there's no more resource, and then the previous we have a URL for it. If I click on it, it takes me back. Okay, so now just don't worry, I'll still come back and explain because I feel like you've not fully understood what I'm trying to explain here. So I'll still come back and break things down. Okay, so now this page size that I was explaining before, I want to try and use it now. So I'm just going to copy it, and I'll come here, and instead of using the default URL, I'll just say page size is equals to 4, and by default you see that it returns everything instead of just 2. So if I add more resources in my API, right, it's going to return as many as long as it's not more than 4. So I can return as many as I want with this parameter here. Okay. So now ask your questions. What are the questions you want to ask?
So can you go back to that the browser?
Okay.
Um okay, so is it that you have just three resources in the listing
Yeah, just
in
three.
the database? Okay, okay.
But you can
Alright.
add more if you want. Let me just quickly see if I can add more. Let me copy this file. Copy this file. I'll to make a push request. I'll remove this first name coordinate stuff. Come here and I'll say paginate. Okay. So I'll copy it and then I'm going to send it again. Okay. So now if okay, let me just add one more just to show you. Stuff two paginate three. I'm going to send it again. So now we are supposed to have five this thing in our database. So if I send a get request and I set the page size equals to 4, you can see that it is returning just 1, 2, 3, 4. And then if I click on the next button, right, it is returning the last one, which is the fifth one. So do you get it
Mm,
now?
yes.
Okay, cool. So by default, if I now put the page size, it's just returning true. And then I click on this again, it's going to return another true. So are you getting the logic now?
Yes.
Okay, cool. So do you have any other question?
No, I don't.
Okay, so
I don't have any other question.
as usual, let me just pause this so you can. Okay. Yeah, so let's get back to it. So now, like I said, we're only going to add two features to this, and then I'll give you one. I want to give you one hefty assignment. Okay, so let's get back to our views. Now, the next feature I want to add is the search feature, right? So the search feature will still be on this view over here, and yeah, I'm thinking of the best way to bring it down. Okay, let's just start by importing Q. I think where is it? Triangle. uh, I'm not sure where it's located, so let me just see. DB. Okay, db.models I think. Let me just see. db.models import. Okay. I hope that's where it's from. Otherwise, I'll just have to Google it. Okay, so we've done that. Now, okay. Okay, so we've done that, and now basically what is Q? Q is like a module or a library that you can use to perform complex queries on your database, right? So in our get request, because it's still the get request, you cannot perform a search on your post request. So in our get request, we are going to perform a search on our tasks basically. So we'll come down here and say perform search. Okay, yeah. So what do we want to do? First of all, we want to get the um what's the name? We want to get the query that the user is looking for. So I don't know if you know our classes when I was explaining the difference between get and post and all of those things. I I made reference to the Google search. Please give me a minute. Give me a minute, please. So sorry about this. So back to that. So in our class, when I was explaining the different requests, I mentioned that is get requests. Whatever you search basically, by the time you are done with
Is
it,
a
you
get
would, yeah, you see it in your browser just like this, right? And you can see something that says q equals whatever whatever. So that's what we want to try and simulate basically, right? We want to simulate something whereby by the time the user
the
searches,
query parameter.
yeah, the query parameter. So when the user searches, we'll have something like this in our URL, and then we'll get the value of what this q is. Then we're going to compare it to what we have in our database. If it is there, we'll send it to the user. If it is not, we'll send a 404. Okay, so I hope that is clear enough. Now,
Yes.
let's get to it. So I'm going to say query into the search query is equals to requests. That is our request from here, right? The get, the get. So this will basically assist us to get the value from the URL and what do you want to get. So now this value over here, basically you can call it whatever it is that you want, to be fair. But most times you see people call it q, just like we saw in the other in the URL we searched for just now. So we're trying to get the value of whatever is q in our URL, and when we're using this method, by default we have to provide a default value. So we'll just leave an empty string because normally it's supposed to be empty unless user searches. So now
Okay.
if query simply means that if there is a query, if there's a value, if it's not an empty string, then we are going to filter our tasks. So like there are many methods that we can use to filter this stuff, right? We can I'm trying to go do something. Okay, let me pass first. Okay, so we can let me do this way. What do you think we can do next? How do you think we can compare the whole thing next?
You check if the queue is there.
And
You,
how
I
will
don't
you check
know,
if the queue
just
is there
search
now?
for it. You've done it now. The queue, the query stuff that you wrote, request dot get.
Okay, so I'm not saying okay if there's a query, how are we going to do the comparison? How are we going to compare it to our database?
Um, depends on like the fields.
Okay, so we are
What
using
you do, you can use filter by, I don't know, filter.
okay, so I'll say filter. Okay,
Oh, is that what
now
you know?
a filter.
Oh no, I'm talking about the function.
Okay, the function. So I'll call it like this. Eh? Okay. So let me just make things easier. Probably we can decide that we want because by default, here's what is happening. If the user is not searching for anything, this is our query set. This is what we're using as our query set. So what we want to do is that whenever the user is searching for something, we need to change our query set to something that contains what the user is searching for. Do you get? So that means we have to change the value of these tasks from being object of all to something else. So we can decide that we say tasks is equals to task dot objects dot filter. This is what we're trying to say, Abby. Zainab.
Yes, yes.
Yeah, I was just messing with you the other time. Okay, task dot object dot filter, and you say that query, Abby, we filter it by let's say task name. is equals to query. And I think that's all basically. That's all we need to do for that, for a basic search. Anyway, we've not used q and all of that, so that's all we need to do for a basic search. So I'm trying to remember something. Okay, so now that we've done this, we should be able to search for something in our database. So if I come back here, I'll say slash q, not sure, is equals to I'll say paginate stuff. So to add the space, we just say %20, then stuff. And no, it is not supposed to have this. Is this the right pattern? Okay, great. So you can see now, so by default, if the user wants to search for something, by the time they click on the search, the front-end developer will do his magic and will redirect us here, right? So you're just going to pass in q is equals to is. Have you done front-end before? You know
A
how
little
forms
bit.
work, Abby?
Yeah, when you submit,
Yeah, okay.
there's
So
like
so
a
when
an
it's just like when
input.
the user clicks on the search bar, right, the front-end developer is going to extract the whatever the user pushed into the search bar, and then it's going to pass it to this. So it's just going to create the URL and say q is equals to, you create a variable name and then pass it. So that is basically what we've done here just now. So we can see when we did that, we got our results, right? And if we say want to search for something else, it gets null because it does not exist. Normally, I'm supposed to return a 404 because I'm not supposed to, it's returning nothing. I'm supposed to return a 404, but we'll get to that probably later. So yeah, this is one way to do the search. This is one way to create the search. Another way to do it is to use this module that I brought in earlier. Right, I said Q. So how do we use Q? It is pretty simple. So instead of going all the way to call the query and then do you just say tasks the filter like this. And where is this tasks coming from? This same one that we have here. So I'm not going to filter what we already have in this place. But what has already been loaded, I'm just going to filter it, and I'm going to say Q. Then the Q is going to take in the is going to take in the what's the name, the field that we want to, what's the word, that I want to search by. So if you are searching by the name of the task, it's going to take the name of the task. If you are searching by description, it's taking description. If you are searching by whether or not the task has been completed, it should take in that as well. So we just say task name, then double underscore, which okay. So it has like many different methods that you can use. I think I wrote them down somewhere. I'm not sure if this is it. I hope that this is it. Is this it? Is this it? Okay, exactly. Cool. So it contains like a lot. So you can see a different. I'll probably send this to you. But what we're going to use in this class is I contains. I contains basically means that you're going to search, um, you're going to perform a case insensitive search. So if you noticed, this place where I did paginate stuff, I used the capital letter. It should not work if I
Yeah,
use small letter. I don't think it should work. I don't think it
yeah,
should.
return.
Okay. Sorry.
Gosh.
We've written another code. So let me just go back so we can test this. Okay, so this is reloading. Um, yeah, so we're good to go. Okay, so let's try this again one more time. Okay, so you can see that it's returning what? It's returning zero, that it does not exist and all of that. Why? Because this starts with a small letter, whereas what we have in our database starts with a capital letter. So that is primarily what we want to combat in this place. Already we could have come here and then what's it, request the set. We can come here and then we say dot lower and do whatever. But that's like unnecessary code in my opinion. So I'm just going to get rid of that. You know what? I'll just comment this guy out for you. So I'm just going to comment this guy out so that you can have it. Or I'll push it to GitHub and stuff. Just so you can have it. Cool. Okay. So back to what we're doing. But so far, do you have any questions?
No,
Awesome.
I don't have any questions.
So okay, so back to what we're doing. If I say tasks dot filter, and then we're going to use the queue module, the function as well. So what's going to take in is going to take in the name of the field that we want to um, that I want to search by. So that is task name. Then we're going to use
So
the
why do we have the Q there?
eh?
The Q, that capital Q there. Is
This
it for
Q,
the query?
yeah, it's for the queries to perform the query.
Okay.
Yeah, you know, I imported it at the beginning. This is I imported it at the beginning, so it's not coming from the something else. So I'm just going to say query. Okay. So now let's come back and explain it. Um, so what I did basically is I'm using this query to perform a case insensitive search. So what that means basically is that whether or not the query the user enters is caps lock or lowercase and all of that, it wouldn't mind. It's going to disregard the capitalization and just search for it like letter by letter and whatever. Do you get? So that's it's more efficient than doing this because when we did this the first time, it returned null for us when we use capital letter, just like I showed you. So that's why I'm going to try this now and see if it works. Okay, let me just get this guy. I'm going to run my server again. Okay, this is taking a while. I don't know why. Okay, so while this is running, I don't know what's going on. Do you have questions so far?
No.
Okay, so let's just wait for this to run. So are you trying it out on your end?
Yes.
Okay, so it's finally running. So let's come here. And I'm going to perform the same search. And at this point, you can see that it's actually returning more than one. Because the other time, when we used the first method, we had only one item returned because it's searching for it exactly, right? And now that we're using the queue module, it is returning two items because they contain the value paginate stuff, even though this one still has an extra something to it, but it still contains paginate stuff, and that is why it is being returned. So do you get that?
Yes.
Okay, so try and perform it on your end and let's see, then I'll just give you a brief of what your assignment should be like, and we can call it a day because I really want to go to some stuff.
Yes, working.
It's working, awesome. So any questions so far?
No,
Okay, cool.
I don't have any question.
So I'm going to drop the assignment basically. I'll still like probably write it in a document and send to you. But what you'll be building basically is an e-commerce API. Very simple API. What the features I need basically, I need the basic proof features, just like what we've done in the last class. And then um the user should be able to search by the category and by product name as well, just those two. But at this level, we are not implementing levels of users. We'll start that one from the next class. So all I need you to do is um, admin stuff primarily, but through the API. So the admin is able to add new products and whatever, delete products, all of those things, and as well search for products by category and by the product name. So I think that should be simple enough with everything we've done so far, right?
I don't know. When I start,
You don't understand.
I'm able to tell. I said when I start, that's when I'm able to tell if it's simple.
It has to be simple now. Okay, no problem. So that will be all for today's class. From the next class, we'll start working on authentication and authorization. Okay.